it on the beat.
Year. So we're going to get into it. Exactly how do we create a Hebrew calendar? How do we calculate the feast days, right? So Shamar, take us to the PowerPoint. So the Hebrew calendar, calculating the feast days. So first things first, what is the significance, right? So let's get Exodus 31.
Exodus chapter 31,
13.
verse 13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbath ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations.
God. So we see here, Exodus 31 and 13, the Lord said, you are to keep my Sabbaths, because it is a what? Read it again.
For it is a sign between me and you.
It is a sign, right? between us for how long?
throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you.
Said it was a sign between us and the Most High throughout our generations. That means forever, right? It said that he might sanctify us, that he may show and separate us, bring us unto him, right? Let's go to Leviticus 23.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
So the scriptures say that we were to proclaim these feasts. This was a commandment. We were to proclaim these feasts in their seasons, right? So let's get to it. How are the feasts determined? So we just read Leviticus 24. It's determined in their seasons. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. We're going to read verses 14 through 17.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years.
And so we see here that the Lord created two lights, and they were to be for signs and to determine seasons and to determine days and to determine years, right? Read on.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so.
So verse 16.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
So we see here the sun, the moon, and the stars are created. And it says that they were used in verse 14 for signs. What type of signs? Well, it's to help us determine when the feast days are. And for seasons, right? So when you understand constellations, constellations help us to see what month we are in and essentially what season we're in, right? And for days, because when you look at the moon, it has a lunation cycle of approximately 30 days. So each moon phase is a different day, right? And for years, days and years, right? Let's jump over to Psalm 104. So we're trying to get an understanding of how we determine our years. Do we just use the Gregorian calendar and go by that, or do we use the instruments that the Lord gave us? Psalms 104. And I'll roll verse 19.
The book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down.
So again, the moon is appointed for seasons, right? But it's not just the moon alone. It's the moon in conjunction with the stars. These celestial bodies will dictate and determine what month we're in, because the lunation cycle just goes from dark to full to dark again. Now the question is, okay, how do we determine which month we're in? Because we know at the end of every cycle, the month is over. But how do we know whether it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth? Well, you have bunches or bundles of stars known as constellations that will tell you which month you would be in, right? Sirach 43. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 43. And I might not want to start at verse 8. Sirach 43 and verse... Actually, yeah, we can go straight to 8.
Sirach chapter 43, verse 8.
Salakia. Verse 7.
Verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feast.
So again, the moon is the sign of feasts. Why? Because you have things called seasonal feasts, as we read in Leviticus 23. Read.
A light that decreaseth in her perfection.
So it says a light that decreaseth from the point that it is full. Now, let's read on.
The month is called after her name.
So moon and month are the same. Moon and month are synonymous words. That's what it's saying, right? Now watch this. The moon and month also do what?
Increasing wonderfully in her changing.
So it says increases wonderfully. So as the days go in a month, the moonlight from the beginning starts to increase, and then it hits its full moon halfway through the month and begins to decrease or wane, right? Read.
Being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
Being an instrument, being an instrument of the armies above, right? What do I need? So we see here that the sun, the moon, and the stars are what help us to determine the seasons, what help us to determine the feasts, right? So we have to understand this first and foremost, because how would you know how to determine it? Some people say, well, the 9th month is September, or excuse me, the 7th month is July. So in the 7th month, July is when we keep tabernacles. No. We go based off of the instruments of heaven, right? Now, the next thing we have to do, so we now see the significance. We also see how the feasts are determined, the sun, moon, and the stars. Now, let's go ahead and see how many days are in a month. Let's prove it. So I stated it earlier, but let's get in these scriptures and let's actually prove it. Let's go to Genesis chapter 7. Genesis chapter 7, and I want to get verse 11. And then we're going to drop down to verse 24.
Genesis chapter 7, verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open.
So this is what you need to pay attention to. It says the 600th year, in the second month, the 17th day of the month. So remember that. Drop down to verse 24.
Verse 24, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days.
So it says 150 days from the second month, 17th day of the month, there was water all over the earth, right? Let's drop down to Genesis 8 and verse 3.
Genesis chapter 8, verse 3, and the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated.
So it said 150 days later, from that second month, 17th day of the month, the waters abated, right? Verse 4.
And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat.
Okay, so now let's do a little bit of basic division, right? It says from the second month, 17th day of the month, and all the way up to the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, that's 5 months. From the second month to the 7th month is exactly 5 months, which is also equivalent to 150 days, as we see in the scriptures, right? Now, this is where the basic math comes in. 150 days divided into 5 months will give us how many days are in each month. So 150 days divided by those 5 months gives us approximately 30 days per month. So the scriptures show you it's 30 days in each month. Now, when you get into understanding how the Lord works, he doesn't work on fixed time. The white man has showed us that, you know what? No, I'll touch on it, and then we're going to get the scripture in a minute. Scriptures say that these particular wicked individuals would think to change times and laws. And so when we get into what time is, an hour is not exactly 60 minutes. A minute is not exactly 60 seconds, but it is an approximation. So that's why I'm letting you know that it's approximately 30 days the lunation cycle is, right? Now, let's go ahead and deal with the, let's go to Psalms 81. And now we're going to deal with how we can see or determine approximately when this, what do you call it? This, the new moon comes in, excuse me. So the first thing we want to deal with is showing you there are different thoughts on when the new moon comes in, right? And those different thoughts is some says the full moon, some says the crescent moon, some says the dark moon. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to touch on all of that tonight. So first things first, let's deal with the new moon. Is it the full moon? Let's find out. Let's go to Psalm chapter 81 and verse 3. You can bring it back, Shamar. Bring it back to us.
Psalms chapter 81, verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
Slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. So it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day, right? So pay attention to what feast day this is talking about. Read.
For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob.
So it said this was a law given to us, right? Read.
This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
So again, in this reference is referencing Joseph, but it's also just talking about Israel. And it said when an individual left or heard a language, that they did not understand, right? Read on.
I removed his shoulder from the burden.
So this feast day commemorates the time our shoulder was removed, or the burden was removed from our shoulder. Read.
His hands were delivered from the pots.
And our hands was delivered from the pots. This is all talking about something that helped commemorate a time when we were in servitude, right? Read.
Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee.
It said we cried out in trouble. This feast day commemorates a time we cried out in trouble because we were in captivity or in servitude, and the Lord freed us from that burden, right? Read.
I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah, Selah.
Now, when you get into this, it's talking about the time of the Exodus. So it's talking about the Passover, right? So the Passover is the feast day where our shoulder was removed from the burden. An individual named Moses at the time, who was born in an Egyptian household, was not strong in the language of Egypt because the scriptures say he was slow of speech. But we knew that Moses wasn't retarded because the book of Hebrews tell you that he was educated well in the ways of the Egyptians. So he wasn't around many Hebrews, so he didn't understand that language, or he wasn't proficient in that language, right? And it says, I removed the shoulder from the burden. So I took your shoulders, or I took the burden, I took the oppression away from you. His hands were delivered from the pots. So this is all talking about servitude. We called in a time of trouble, and the Lord brought us out and proved us in Meribah. That was with Moses, right? All of this talk is talking about the Passover. Now, take us back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to break this down piece by piece, right? So, blow up the trumpet in the new moon. Now, that word for new moon, it's referenced as, Chodesh, right? And the outline of biblical use, how this word is used in the Bible, the new moon, or the new month, or monthly. Also, the first day of the month, or the lunar month, right? Now, down here it says the new moon, by implication, a month, new moon or monthly. So when you look at the definition, it has a number of definitions. Now we have to put it in context so we now understand what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in context for you. This is talking about just monthly. Blow up the trumpet, in this particular month, rather. So it says a month. So blow up the trumpet in this particular month, right? Chasa, which is, actually, let's continue to read on. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed. So the time appointed is chasa. That word literally means full moon, right? Properly, or biblical usage, the Strong's definition is fullness or the full moon, i.e. its festival or time appointed, right? So right now it's saying blow up the trumpet in the new month on the full moon, right? And then it says on our solemn feast day. That word for feast day is Chag, right? And Chag is literally a festival, a solemn feast day, a sacrifice, or a solemnity. So now let's put it all together. It says, blow up the trumpet in the new month, in the full moon, that's the time appointed, on our solemn high holy feast day. So now the question is, what feast day is this talking about? Well, we read verses 4 all the way down to verse 7, and we see that it's talking about the Passover. So one more time, blow up the trumpet in the new month. Why is it calling it the new month? Because it is the first month of the new year. So blow up the trumpet in the new month, in the full moon, on the solemn feast day known as the Passover. So we see here that the Passover falls on a full moon according to the Bible, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to go to Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus. And I want to grab a few scriptures. No. I only need this one. I take it back. I only need this one. Leviticus chapter 23. And I want verse 4. Yep. No, excuse me. Yeah, 4 and 5. Leviticus 23, 4 and 5.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season.
Now watch this. Read.
In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
Read.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread.
So we see here the 14th day at even, also known as the 15th day, is the Lord's Passover, right? Take me back to the PowerPoint. We're going to do some deductive reasoning. Boom. So if the Passover is on the 15th day, which is the 14th day at even, and the Passover is on a full moon, which is halfway through the lunation cycle, then we can know that it will take approximately 15 more days to become dark, which will make it a 30-day cycle and then start over. So two things just got broken down here. One, we proved also in the Bible that it's approximately 30 days, approximately 30-day lunation cycle. And two, we showed you that the full moon cannot be the new moon because the full moon is when the Passover is on, and the Passover falls in the very middle of the month. So if the Passover is in the middle of the month on the 15th day, the full moon's on the middle of the month, the 15th day, it cannot be the first day of the month. That's just common sense, right? So there are approximately 30 days in each month. Now, let's see what the scientists say. This is from Hermetic.Cal Studies lunar calendar. So I believe every slide that I have up here has the link to it, so you can always go back and pull it up and prove it for yourself, right? So the synodic month, aka the average lunar month, is the mean, that is the average, interval in days between exact conjunctions of the moon and the sun, as observed from the earth. This refers to the astronomical new moon. So now we're getting into two other types of new moons, the dark one or the crescent. Right now we're talking about the astronomical new moon, also known as the dark new moon, right? So the current value of the synodic month or the lunation cycle is approximately 29.53059 days. So it's around between 29 and 31 days. On average, it will fluctuate, and this is where you get the mean, which is 29.53, right? We measure the lunar month from the precise moment of a new moon, when the sun and earth are aligned on opposite sides of the moon. Again, this is the astronomical or dark new moon, right? Until the next new moon. In the period from 1600 to 2600, an average lunar month lasted 29 and a half days, or 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and 2 seconds. The shortest lunar month ended on July 17th, 1708, and lasted 29.271819 days, while the longest was 29832568. The exact length varies slightly due to the elliptical shape of the orbit. So it's not a perfect circle. This is why instead of everything is an approximation, right? So what is a lunar month? It is the duration between successive new moons. What does that mean? That means from one new moon to the next new moon is the span of a lunar month. Also called a lunation or synodic month, it has the mean period of 29 and a half days. That's the mean, but the true length varies throughout the year. So again, it's approximately 30 days, 29 and a half days being approximately 30 days. So what does the moon look like when it's a new moon? Let's see if the Bible says something about it, right? So here's a disclaimer. Disclaimer. Need y'all to understand this, right? When you read the book, when you read the scriptures, everyone already understood when the new moon was. So nobody had an argument of when it was, and therefore you won't see in the scriptures, oh, it's dark, oh, it's a crescent, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, right? So, question. How do we figure out when the new moon actually was? How do we know it's a crescent? How do we know it's dark? How do we know it's full? Well, we already proved that it can't be full. That's physically impossible. But how do we know whether it's dark or a crescent? Let's find out. Let's go to Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 15. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 5 and verse 15. Let's see how the scriptures tell us to figure out these things. Give me that Sirach.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 5, verse 15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small.
It says, don't be ignorant in any matter, whether it's a big one or a small one. In this case, it's a big issue because if our new moon is off, all of our feast days are off, which means we are not keeping it in accordance to what the Lord wanted us to do. Henceforth, we are not keeping the sign that he gave us, right? Let's go to 2 Timothy. Chapter 2 and verse 15. Let's talk about it again. We're going to see what the Lord says. How do we determine this stuff? How do we figure this out? How do we figure this out? Go ahead.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. Study to show thyself approved.
Study to show yourself approved, right? Do your own research. Go ahead.
Unto God.
Unto the Most High, right?
A workman that needed not to be ashamed.
And you won't be ashamed or confounded or confused or lost or conflicted, right? Read.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
You'll be able to rightly divide the word of truth. You'll be able to rightly discern what is what, right? Two more actually. Give me Job 8 and 8. Job chapter 8 and verse 8. So we hear the Lord said, don't be ignorant in any matter, great or small. How do you not be ignorant? You study. You study to show yourself to be approved unto the Most High, right? Let's jump over to Job chapter 8.
Job chapter 8, verse 8. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age.
Inquire of what?
I pray thee of the former age.
Let's talk about your history. Go look into your history, right? Read.
And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
Let's go see what our forefathers were doing. So you may not find it in the scriptures, but you can find historical references to figure this out. That's what it's telling you. Give me one more. Proverbs 25 and verse 2. This is a bonus scripture for everybody. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 2. So we see, don't be ignorant. How do you not be ignorant? Study to show yourself approved. And what are we studying? The history of our forefathers. This is how we will figure out when the new moon actually occurs, right? Read.
Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing.
So it says it's the Most High's glory. It's a beautiful thing when the Most High conceals a thing. Why?
But the honor of kings is to search out the matter.
It says, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. So the honor of our people, the nation of kings and priests, if we really want this, if we really trying to live righteously and abide in it, we're going to go search out this matter. We're going to go research it for ourselves. We're not just going to say, well, that's what we've been doing. It is what it is. Okay, but I found this. I don't give a shit about that information. We're not dealing with that. No. This is what we've been doing. Nope. Scriptures say it is honorable for us to search out this matter. So let's do some research, right? Take us to the PowerPoint. So we're going to touch on the first one, the dark moon or the astronomical new moon. In astronomy, the new moon is the phase. In astronomy, that's what I need you to pay attention to. In astronomy, also known as the astronomical new moon, the new moon is the phase that occurs between the waning crescent and the waxing crescent. At this point, the moon is directly between the earth and the sun, or quote unquote in conjunction with the sun and the earth, and thus catches the sun's light fully on the side of the moon facing away from the sun. The side facing the earth appears completely dark. This is where the astronomical new moon comes in, because this is what astronomy refers to as the new moon, when the moon is in conjunction with the sun. Usually at new moon, the moon is invisible to the naked eye when viewed from Earth. Continued. In historical astronomy, before the advent of high-powered telescopes and space travel, both scientists and lay people would often refer to the new moon as the first appearance of the waxing crescent moon. So before there was telescopes, they said we're going to wait until we see the first peak of light for us to determine the birth of the new moon, which is what's called the first sliver or the first crescent, right? Today, astronomers sometimes use the term dark moon to refer to a period when the moon is in conjunction with the sun and the earth and is invisible to the naked eye. The term dark moon is used to avoid confusion due to the ambiguity of new moon terminology. And this is from Sciencing, right? So we're finna hit the next slide. This is from the Farmer's Almanac. And it reads, for astronomers, a new moon means no moon. Again, astronomical new moon. A new moon is essentially the opposite of a full moon. During a full moon, we see the side of the moon that is being illuminated by the sun, giving the moon its bright, glowing appearance. During a new moon, however, we see the side of the moon that is not being illuminated by the sun, which makes the moon blend in with the dark night sky, right? So this is again referring to the astronomical new moon. And I'm going to keep saying that so we can see that there is a distinction between the two. Now, let me see. Here we go. So, when did the dark moon become the new moon? Well, we already saw it earlier when the astronomers started having telescopes. But let's read on. The term new moon, originally referred to as the crescent moon, on the first night it is visible. Oh, wait, let me see. Oh, actually, we don't even need this, right? We're going to jump straight over here. So from time and date, as new moon nights are dark, they are often the best time to view other celestial objects like planets, meteor showers, and deep sky objects such as star clusters, nebulae, and galaxies. About a day after the new moon conjunction, the moon becomes visible again. The initial period, as only the thinnest sliver of a crescent moon becomes visible, used to be called the new moon, while the darkest phase was called a dark moon. So we see here, historically speaking, time and date is a place where you can actually see all of the different moon phases, see when the new moons are coming, or the dark astronomical new moons are coming, all the different phases, right? And they have some history on the new moon here. So it says the sliver of a crescent used to be called the new moon. So it ended up being changed. Originally, it was the crescent. Now, when you develop telescopes, they started calling the dark moon the new moon. This is why it's called the astronomical new moon. We're going to make a distinction between that and the traditional new moon, right? So now, let's see what our forefathers were doing, what they were saying, how they were keeping it, right? This is from Philo of Alexandria. Who in the world is Philo, right? And what credibility does he hold? Well, let's find out. Philo Judaeus, also called Philo of Alexandria, a Greek-speaking Jewish philosopher. He was a Greek-speaking Jew, not Jewish philosopher. The most important representative of Hellenistic Judaism. So what we practice, which were the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, they call Judaism. His writings provide the clearest view of the development of Judaism in the diaspora. So how we were keeping the laws and how we were living during the diaspora, right? Now, notice the note at the bottom. It says, note, Philo lived during the time of Christ and lived after Christ was crucified, right? So, Philo of Alexandria, quote. This came from Philo. I believe, no, you can actually Google it. I don't think I put the actual source in here, but you can literally type in Philo of Alexandria quote, and you can write these exact words in there, and it'll give you the source. So it says, the first matter to be considered is that of the festivals. Now there are 10 festivals in number as the law set them down. The third of which that comes, the third is that which comes after the conjunction. So we were talking about the astronomical new moon, which was known as the time of conjunction. They're saying the new moon comes in after the conjunction, the very first sliver of light, right? Which happens on the day of the new moon in each month. So the after conjunction is what's referred to as the new moon in biblical times with our forefathers, right? The next portion says, following the order which we have adopted, we proceed to speak of the third festival, that of the new moon. First of all, because it is the beginning of the month. So when we see that first sliver, it's the beginning of the month. And the beginning, whether of number or time, is honorable, right? So let's get another source from the Jewish Encyclopedia. And it reads, of the greatest significance, however, was the proclamation of the new moon, Chedash HaChodesh, by the president of the Sanhedrin, originally, of course, by the high priest, just as in Rome, a Pontifex Maximus fixed new moon by proclamations, whence the name calendar. The Sanhedrin was assembled in the courtyard of Jerusalem on the 30th day of each month from morning to evening, waiting for the reports of those appointed to observe the new moon. So you had to actually see the new moon. And if it was a dark moon, you would not be able to see it in the sky because it would blend in. And after the examination of these reports, the president of the Sanhedrin, in the presence of at least 3 members, called out, the new moon is consecrated, whereupon the whole assembly of people twice repeated, it is consecrated. So this was the custom in which they would say, okay, it is consecrated, and the people would follow after them. But we see here that our forefathers had to sight, they had to find, they had to see the new moon, right? Now, Chabad.org. The Jewish calendar is based on lunar cycles toward the beginning of the moon's cycle. It appears as a thin crescent. So we saw that Philo said it. Now we're seeing that because he said it was after the conjunction, which is the very first sliver of light. Then we saw it in the Jewish Encyclopedia. They said the Sanhedrin, which were made up of Pharisees and Sadducees, who gave the people the law at that time, they would sit there and wait for people to come back and say, hey, we saw the new moon, which we know you couldn't see it if it was a dark moon, right? appears as a thin crescent. And then, in the Chabad.org, we see that it's telling you the new moon appears as a thin crescent. That is the signal for the new Israelite month, not Jewish month, Israelite month. The moon grows until it is full, the middle of the month. And when it begins to wane, until it cannot be seen. Right? Chabad.org continued. On the 30th day of every month, the Sanhedrin, which is the people who gave the law at this time, would, quote unquote, open for business in a large courtyard of Jerusalem called Beit Ya'azek. Witnesses who claimed to have seen the new moon on the previous night would come to give their testimony and be cross-examined. The member of the Sanhedrin were well schooled in astronomy, so these people knew astronomy. This is why it said earlier that they would actually draft out a calendar that would calculate each month. But what ended up happening was they also had people to go and look for the moon to make sure that the calculations were absolutely correct. So on that day, it says, okay, the moon is supposed to come in this day. Okay, all the watchers go out this morning, and you guys stay out there and tell us if you see the new moon. Right? It says the members of the Sanhedrin were well schooled in astronomy. They knew exactly when the new moon would have appeared and where it would have been visible. Nevertheless, the sanctification of the new moon depends on the crescent new moon actually being seen by two witnesses. So we can't just assume. They said they knew it. They were calculating it perfectly, but it had to actually be witnessed, as everything else in the scriptures, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, right? The word this in the above quoted verse, this month shall be to you, implies something that is actually seen, right? Now, before I go to the next slide, let's go to, did I not put that in there? Okay, this is what I wanted. Actually, no, I don't. I want to go here first, right? So the original, now this is from the Chinese Buddhist, the Chinese Buddhist Encyclopedia, right? Another encyclopedia, another informational source. The original meaning of the phrase new moon was the first visible crescent of the moon. After conjunction, just like Philo said, who was living in the time of Christ. He said this is how they used to keep it. Chabad said the same thing. The Jewish Encyclopedia said the same thing. The Chinese Buddhist Encyclopedia is saying the exact same thing. This takes place over the western horizon in a brief period between sunset and moonset, and therefore the precise time and even the date of the appearance of the new moon by this definition will be influenced by the geographical location of the observer, right? This is the important part. The new moon in its original meaning of the first crescent marks the beginning of the month in lunar calendars, which is how we determine our months, such as the Muslim calendar, the lunisolar calendar, such as the Hebrew calendar, Hindu calendar and Buddhist calendar, right? So it shows our forefathers did the exact same thing. Oxford and English Dictionary. The original meaning of the term new moon, which is still sometimes used in non-astronomical contexts, is the first visible crescent of the moon after conjunction with the sun. This thin waxing crescent is briefly and faintly visible as the moon gets lower in the western sky after sunset. Now, watch this, watch this, watch this. I just want to point out something. Let's walk on back. Right here, right? Time and date says that the original meaning of the new moon was what? A crescent. Witness 1. Philo, who lived in the time of Christ, said the exact same thing. It came after conjunction, which indicates it was a crescent. That's witness 2. The Jewish Encyclopedia, the Sanhedrin said that the people had to actually see or observe it, right? The first crescent. Chabad says the exact same thing right here. It appears as the first thin crescent. That's 4. And we're going to get back to this one. You guys are going to love this. Chinese Buddhist calendar. That's 5. 5 witnesses so far that says the original new moon was a crescent until telescopes were invented. And number 6, the Oxford English Dictionary, the original meaning of the term new moon, which is still sometimes used in non-astronomical context, is the first visible crescent. Now, we had to observe our new moons. Let's go to Deuteronomy 16 and see what the scriptures say. Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1. Observe
Do
the
what?
month. Observe
Observe. Read.
the month of Abib,
Uh-huh.
and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
So it says, observe the month of Abib. You have to see when this month comes in. Observe. Shamar, to keep, to guard, to observe, to keep charge of, to watch for, to wait for, to observe or to celebrate or to keep. To guard, generally to protect, to attend, be ward, to be circumspect, to take heed, to keep oneself, to look narrowly, to observe. And it also references to wait for and watchmen. So we see here that the scriptures are telling us to, Salakia, and that was the Hebrew out of the Blue Letter Bible. You can look it up. So it says to observe observe the month of Abib. Well, how would we know it came in? We have to be able to determine when the new moon, the first new moon of the year, comes in. How do we do that? Like our forefathers did, waiting for the first initial sliver thin crescent, right? So how would the month of Abib's new moon be observed if we cannot see the new moon, right? And how would we be able to blow the shofar if we could not see the sign of the new moon? Because that was the custom. You would blow the shofar, you would light a fire at the top of the hills to tell everybody the new moon is coming in. Let's celebrate tonight. How could you do that if you cannot see the moon? You cannot do that. And we just got 6 different sources, 6 different witnesses that said the original meaning before science came in and they had telescopes and said, okay, we're going to call that the new moon now. But why would they do that? Take us back to the PowerPoint, Shamar. Why would they do that? Why did things change? Let's go to Daniel and find out. How could something so sacred and so important become altered? How could we allow this? How did this become so? Daniel chapter 7. We're going to read verse 24 and verse 25. Read that.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise.
Now, in short, because many of brothers and did lessons on this, very simply put, these is talking about Edomites, Europeans, the European nations that would rule, right? Read.
And in others shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
All 3 kings, right? Read. Now watch this. This is the important part. It says this person from this nation, these Edomites, these so-called Europeans, white people, right? It says he's going to rule, he's going to reign differently, and this is what he was going to do. Verse 25.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High,
Which he does to this very day. Read.
and shall wear out the saints of the Most High,
Which he does to this very day. Read.
and think to change
And
time.
wait, slow down. And then what?
And think
And think
to change times
to change times. Read.
and laws.
And laws. It says he will think to change times and laws. That's crazy, right? So the question is, well, how did that happen? Why did it all of a sudden become the dark moon? Well, the Lord told you that there will be certain people that would come into play and think that they could change what the Most High had already ordained, right? Let me see some. Okay, nope. Oh, now we get to the fun part, right? So, now, let's go to, I'm a little upset. I put this out of order. It's okay, though. Let's go to Matthew. Did Christ keep the crescent moon? Let us reason together in these scriptures. You can bring it back to us, Shamar. Let's talk about Christ. Let's talk about Christ. Let's talk about Christ. This is going to blow your mind, right? So, originally I said you cannot prove in the Bible how the moon was kept. Well, semi-true, right? We're going to reason with the scriptures. We're going to see all of the information that we brought out. See how it links together. Y'all going to learn something new today. Let's see how the Lord puts it all together, right? Matthew. We're going to read chapter 23. And we're going to start at verse 2. We're going to read 2 and 3. This is very important. I need you to pay attention, everyone. If you guys are scrolling through your phone, I need you to focus at this very moment. Go ahead. Read that. Matthew 23 and 2 first.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 2, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
Hold on. Christ said the scribes and Pharisees are sitting in the seat of Moses. What does that mean? They are the ones that read the law. They're the ones that give the law to the people. They know and understand this book. They know and understand these laws. Christ is telling everybody this, because I want to read verse 1. Then spake Yahushua, or Jesus, to the multitude and to his disciples. He's talking about the Pharisees and telling his disciples and everybody around him. These people, they know the law. They sit in Moses' seat, right? Watch this, verse 3.
All therefore, whatsoever they bid you observe.
So he said, whatever they tell you to observe, whatever they tell you to do, right? Read.
That observe and do.
You need to do what they say, because they know the law and they know how to keep the law, right? Read.
But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not.
So they are full of crap. They're hypocrites, right? But they know the law, so what they teach you, do it. Now, when you read verse 4, 5, 6, 7, it basically talks about how vain they are, how they love to be seen, how they love to make it look like they're so holy, so on and so forth. So Christ said, don't follow after that. They know the law and they teach it. Listen to them in that regard when it pertains to the law. But what you see them doing, they want to be big fringed up, big phylacteries. They want to sit in the highest seats, so on and so forth. Don't do that, because they're what is the word? Self-righteous, self-centered individuals. Don't be like that. But what they teaching you, do that, right? Now, this is the fun part. Let me see. Did I email it to myself? If not, I'll pull it up. Give me about 30 seconds so I can get it for you lovely people. Go to, while we wait, go to Matthew 26. Let's go to Matthew 26. We're going to start at verse 1. So we're going to read Matthew 26 and 1 all the way down to... Actually, I need two of these. Matthew 26 and 1 through 5. Then we're going to drop down to verse 17.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover. And the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
Now watch this. Now y'all got to pay attention to this. This is very, very key. This is very, very important. You know, in 2 days, the Passover will be here. And you know I'm supposed to be crucified, right? Christ is telling his people that. Now, verse 3.
Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas.
Right? So, These are the chief priests and scribes. These are just talking about the Pharisees. The Pharisees and the Sadducees were the priests of that time. And it said they all assembled at the house of Caiaphas, right? Now, verse 4.
And consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety and kill him.
So, the same day Christ is saying, hey, in 2 days we're keeping the Passover, Pharisees and Sadducees are saying, hey, we trying to catch Christ slipping so we can kill him, right? But watch verse 5.
But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people.
So it said, but we can't do it on a Passover. And, we all keeping the Passover the same day. We keeping it all together, right? It says, so we can't do that because the people is going to lose their mind. Drop down to verse 17.
Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
So 2 days have gone by, and now they're saying, hey, where are we going to eat the Passover, right, Reed?
And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples.
Verse 19.
And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover.
So we see here that Christ is about to keep the Passover. The Pharisees and Sadducees are also about to keep the Passover, right? Now, this is where the fun begins. Take me back to the computer, please. I need y'all to pay attention to this. This is very important. So, let me blow this up for you. So, Pharisees, it gives you a brief history of their information, right? The Sadducees, it gives you a brief history of their information. Now, this is the important part. These two parties, which were the Pharisees and the Sadducees, served in the great Sanhedrin. Now, we read about the Sanhedrin earlier. The Sanhedrin were the people that sat in the courtyard and waited for the observers to see the crescent moon, right? So, if the Sanhedrin were following the crescent moon, that means the Pharisees and the Sadducees were following the crescent moon, right? Because the Pharisees and the Sadducees are the Sanhedrin. Now, Christ told the people, whatever they teach you, follow that. So, if they knew the law and they were keeping the crescent moon, what were they teaching the people? But watch this, we'll go even further. Now, I'm going to minimize this. Well, actually, excuse me, out the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So let's go over here. Britannica.com, the exact same thing. The composition of Sanhedrin is often in dispute. Controversy involving the participation of the two major parties, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Some say the Sanhedrin was the Sadducees. Some say it was the Pharisees. And others say it was both, a mixture of the both of them. So, either way it go, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were the Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin kept the crescent moon. This means the Pharisees and the Sadducees kept the crescent moon. Now, let's come over here. Let's see. Boom. Now, Christ told, wait. Let me make it look nice for you. Now, let us all reason together. Christ told the people to follow what the Pharisees taught them. The Pharisees are the people that were a part of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin taught that Rosh Chodesh, or the new moon, was a crescent, as we just proved. So the Pharisees taught that the new moon was a crescent moon. And Christ said to follow these people. Now, this is the fun part, though. Let us continue to reason together. So this means that the Pharisees counted 15 days from the crescent moon, because that's their new moon, in order to get their date for the Passover, 15 days after the new moon, which they kept as a crescent. You following me? Makes sense so far? Okay, watch this. Now, Christ kept the Passover on that same day as the Pharisees. This means that he had to have the same count from the new moon as the Pharisees. This means Christ had to have had kept the same new moon as the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which was the crescent moon. So let me replay this really quickly. Pharisees teach crescent moon. Christ says follow them. Pharisees keep Passover based off of their new moon being crescent. Christ keeps that same Passover day. The same one that they calculated is the exact same one he calculated. So if you count backwards now, work backwards, reverse engineer it, it's going to fall on the new moon, which is the crescent moon, and Christ's will fall on that same day. Now, bring it back to me. Now, the question is, because people will say, well, people were doing things different in that time. Well, you know who wasn't going to transgress the law? Don't give a damn which sect of who was doing what. Yahweh wasn't going to, I guess everybody else doing the crescent moon, so I'm going to just go do it with them. You ought to be out of your damn mind. Christ has gone against the grain since he got on the scene. He was pressing everybody when they was full of crap. He was getting on everybody's head about being righteous and teaching his doctrine. Now, you think he's going to fold on that? Well, I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it because everybody else is doing it. What? 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 Now, if you can't, again, I gave you 6 witnesses, and I even gave you scriptures. Now, it's up to you. Acts 5:29. Man, get that. Give me Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. Watch this. Let's talk about it.
The book of Acts, chapter 5, verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said,
What they say?
We ought to obey God.
Obey who?
Obey God.
Obey what?
Obey God.
Obey the Most High.
Rather than men.
So we see that the word of God says what it say. And if you got a problem with that, you got a problem with the Most High. So the question is, all of the information is laid out. What you gonna do? Right? So again, we're doing the whole calendar, but this is a very important part because if your new moon is off, everything else is off. Every single feast day will be off. So we see here in the Bible, we see here in history with a number of sources that the new moon is not dark, that the new moon is not full, but it is in fact the crescent moon, right? So, you going to obey the Most High in his word, or you going to continue on with tradition? It's up to you. Take us back to the PowerPoint. So, every month, once the sighting of the thin crescent is seen, that will be considered the new moon. So, this would be considered the new moon. Now, here's what's so crazy. If you didn't see that piece at the bottom illuminated, would you be able to see that moon at all? So how would you be able to determine it's a new moon? Can't see it. Here's another one. I wanted to get a few for you, right? Now, here is one. This is the very first time that we went out and observed the new moon for ourselves. This is about 5 months ago when we switched over because we did the research, right? This is from my phone. I took a picture on my phone. You can barely see that. Matter of fact, just for the people that may not be able to see it, let me get you the laser. Right. Boom. This here, right here, this crescent right here. If it wasn't for that little fella right there, you would not see the moon. How can you observe it if you can't observe it? Right? Now, so we've broken down the new moon, right? We understand when the new moon comes in. We understand it's a crescent. We got it. Got it, baby girl? All right. All praises. Now watch this. How to determine the new year. Why is this important? Because you have to start somewhere in order to get your 12-month count. You have to start somewhere. Take us back to Deuteronomy 16. You got to start somewhere. Deuteronomy chapter 16. 16. And verse 1. Read that for me.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1.
Pay attention.
Observe the month of Abib
Observe the month of Abib, right? Read.
and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
The month of Abib, you shall keep the Passover. When is that? Okay, it says Abib, but what does that mean? Let's go to Leviticus. For a precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little, and there over there too. Leviticus 23, we're going to read 4 and 5. So it says, Abib is when Passover occurs. When is Abib? Go ahead, read that.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season.
What's these seasonal feasts?
In the 14th day of the first month, at even, is the Lord's Passover.
On the what month?
In the 14th day of the first month.
Of the first month, also known as Abib, right? So this is how we determine it. We got to figure out this first month. So how to determine the new year. The name of the first month is Abib. What does Abib mean? Let us find out. Hebrew, H24, Abiyab, or Abib, depending on if you're speaking Yiddish or Paleo. Abib, fresh young barley ears. Barley, month of ear forming, of greening, of crop, of growing green. Abib, month of Exodus and Passover. March or April, this is meaning it's between the months of March and April. This is when Abib usually comes in, right? Now let's get the definition. This is the outline of biblical use. Let's get the actual definition. From unused, meaning to be tender, green, i.e. young ear of corn, hence the name of the month, Abib or Nisan. Abib, ear, green ears, or corn, not maize, right? Now, we get the exact same thing on the other side. I have two different concordances that I use. Actually, three now, but two here. Month of Abib, the first month of the Canaanite calendar, or because the land of Canaan was the land of Jerusalem, the Israelite calendar, equal to Nisan. Between March and April, again, head of grain, already ripe, but soft. This is the Hebrew word. Now, let's talk about it some more. Let's get some definitions. Abib, swelling, protuberant, to produce the first or the early fruits of full-grown ear of corn. The first month of the Jewish ecclesiastical year, called Nisan. It begins at the spring equinox. We're going to learn a whole lot today. It begins at the spring equinox and answers to the latter part of March and beginning of April. Its name is derived from the full growth of wheat in Egypt, which took place anciently and as it does now at that season. So the first month of the Jewish year is Abib. It usually falls between March and April, late March, early April. That is Abib, right? Let's continue on. Another witness, an ear of corn, the month of newly ripened grain, the first of the Jewish ecclesiastical year. It began about the time of the spring or vernal equinox on March 21st. So it's around the time of the spring equinox. What is the spring equinox? This is very important, guys. I need you to pay attention. I need you to learn. I need you to learn. This is very important so we can learn how to do the calendar. Vernal equinox is also known as the first point of Aries. Since about 2,000 years ago, the point on the celestial sphere where the ecliptic and celestial equator cross was in the constellation of Aries. Now, let's get some history. Again, we're looking into the ways of our forefathers. Josephus. Matter of fact, what I want to do first, I want to gather some information for you guys really quickly. Let's see. Oh, I did this wrong. 1 second. Boom. Here we go. Josephus. Most people know who Josephus is. Josephus was a leader in the Israelite or Jews army. He got captured by the Romans, then turned on the Jews, and became a captain in the Roman army. And he was allowed into pretty much all of the... he gathered a lot of his information from the Roman libraries because he was attributed that privilege to be able to go into their libraries and read even their most secret of secret books. He had favor like that, right? Now, he was born approximately 37 AD. This is literally about 4 years after Christ had died. So he grew up in a time very close to the time of Christ, right? So let's see what he says the Jews were keeping these feasts. From Antiquity of the Jews, section 3.237 through 3.257. In the month of Xanthicus, this is Abib or Nisan, which is by us called Nisan. This is the first month, and is the beginning of our year on the 14th day of the lunar month when the sun is in Aries. Right? Didn't we just read that the vernal equinox comes in Aries? Right? So, when the sun is in Aries, for in this month it was that we were delivered from bondage under the Egyptians. The law ordained that we should every year slay a sacrifice, which I before told you we slew when we came out of Egypt, which is called the Passover. And then it continues on to tell you how we would keep the Passover, right? But it says in the first month, which is Xanthicus, also known as Nisan, also known as Abib. It's the beginning of our year. And the sun falls in Aries during this time. Now, recap. To create a Hebrew calendar, we must know when a new moon is actually determined. If your new moon is off, every feast day will also be on the incorrect day. It's very important. Now, we already determined the new moon is a crescent moon. And to know when a new year begins, if you do not bring in, to create a Hebrew calendar, you must know when the new moon is, and you must know when a new year begins. If you do not bring in the new year in its proper time, every single feast from that point will be off. So, okay, cool, I did put it in here. Now, this year, for everyone to follow along, the vernal equinox falls on March 20th, right? So the new moon that comes in closest to that, so remember it said that the new year comes in on, or the month of Abib comes in on or about the time of this vernal equinox. Now, our new year comes in on the 14th, which is approximately 6 days from the 20th, which is on or about the time of the vernal equinox, right? Now watch this. Can we see that? Yeah, the people online should be able to see. Let me double check for you guys. I want to make sure that you guys can see it. Let's see. So, we're looking at the app. Let me see if you can see this at the top. Can I blow it up? Oh, I can. It's nice. Okay. Hold on, I have to move it. Oh, this is how you do it. Boom and boom. Okay, here we go. See this? Like I said, March 14th, our crescent moon, check it out. The crescent moon, the visible crescent moon comes in. Now, what we have determined, brothers here, after months and some brothers after years of doing it, have seen that around 2%, when the moon is 2% illuminated, 2.6 to be exact, anything 2.6 or higher illumination is able to be seen by the naked eye. Anything below that, so if it's 2.5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we can't see it, right? So around this time is when we can determine our moon will be. So just like the observers and the Sanhedrin, they had already calendared out their year. We've done the same thing, but guess what? On the 14th during the day, we're going to go out and make sure that we see it. So up here, Sunday, March 14th is when our new moon comes in. That crescent moon comes in. And we will see, because when we go to our Passover, which is 15 days after that, which is the 28th up here. The 28th will be day 15, which is Passover. Let's see. Hold on. I want you guys to remember this. The sun is in Aries, right? Well, let's see. This is the sun. I have it highlighted on the sun's side, right? And this is all the information pertaining to the sun. Sunrise, sunset, sun transit, sun declination, sun bright ascension. Now, watch this. The sun sign is in what? It's in Aries. So, I think we might be doing something right. I don't know. Maybe. Lord willing. I'm hoping. We trying. Right? So, now what we're going to do, since we have this established, we've established the new year, which is very important. We've established when a new month comes in, which is also very important. So we said March 14th, based off of the information that we found, vernal equinox on the 20th. About 5 to 6 days earlier, we will have our new moon, which is on or about the vernal equinox. And we made sure to double check it because our Passover will still fall in Aries. Now, let's start laying it out. Let me put on this laser for the people so we can count together. Right? So, at evening, because remember, our days are what? Even to even. And actually, we're going to end up doing a lesson on that because there is a false doctrine going around that says our day starts in the morning. It's not biblical, not scriptural, and you guys need to stop teaching it, or the Most High is going to destroy you. Stop leading the people astray. Now, on the calendar, we see here, our new moon comes in the 14th at even. So this new moon is day 1. We are here at day 1. At even, day 2. At even, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10, day 11, day 12, day 13. At the evening time, this will be day 14. But remember what the scripture said. It's not day 13 at even, which would be day 14. It says day 14 at even. So this is day 14, but at the evening, it will be day 15. So our Passover begins here at even, or in the evening, right? This is day 1 of the Passover, day 2 of the Passover, day 3 of the Passover, day 4 of the Passover. What day did I stop on? Wednesday. Day 5 of the Passover, day 6 of the Passover, day 7 of the Passover. Now, this is where it's actually over. So day 7 is the 3rd at even. Now, day 8, which would be when Passover is over, is on Sunday at even, right? Now, let's now do, what do we want to do first? Let's do Pentecost. So Pentecost is 7 weeks from here. So the following Sabbath, after the last day of Passover, is where we start our count. 7 weeks, 7 Sabbaths, which would also be 49 days plus 1 more day, right? So day 1 at even. I guess we'll count all of them. Day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and this is the second Passover. We'll get back to that. 8, I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Oh, I started a day early. Whoops. 49. And then at even, no, that's right. 49. And then this would be 50 because it would be Saturday evening, right? So we counted what? 50 days, right? But watch this. It also calls it the Feast of 7 Weeks. So we can even check our work. Let's go back, right? So Passover ended. This is from here. This is the first Sabbath, second Sabbath, third Sabbath, fourth Sabbath, fifth, sixth. Oh, wait, I counted that completely wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Crap. Where am I? There it is. So this would be the Sabbath after the whatchamacallit. So this is 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm counting this wrong. I am tripping. Salakia. So, matter of fact, give me the scripture because I done confused myself. Well, nonetheless, actually, I can simplify it for you guys. 7 days a week times 7 weeks. That's 49 days. Plus that extra day is the 50th day. I don't know why I made it that difficult. But that's where you will get the Feast of Pentecost, right? Now, let's go ahead and do the second Passover. New moon. Okay, this is Passover. This is 15th day, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And I believe the 13th will be when our new moon comes in. Let me double check. Where are you? Calendar. Here you are. The second new moon would be, yes, on the 13th at even. So this is the new moon. This will be the second new moon. Now, you have a second Passover. Second new moon, day 1 at even, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 at even is day 15, right? So showing you how to walk through this calendar, how to create this calendar. Oh, I'm tripping. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So this is the last day. This is when the last day starts. This is when the last day ends, right? And then 23rd day is the memorial of Simon, because we counted from the new moon, right? 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I counted that wrong. Yes, this is 21st. Hold on. I'm going to run this back. Excuse me. Hold on real quick. 15th or 14th of sundown is 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Oh, yeah, it was 29 days in this month. Okay, 29. And this one, because remember, it's 29 and a half days. Some months it's 29 days. Sometimes it's 30 or 31 days. That's what we talked about earlier, right? So this new moon, where we would be able to see the crescent, would fall on the 12th. And then you continue on to do the exact same thing. Now, it will behoove you to get 2, maybe 3. You can bring it back to me, Shamar. 2, maybe 3 different online calendars, online moon phases, so you can compare when the new moons come in. And that way you will know, okay, these are all lining up. Because if you only have one, well, what do you have to compare with it? So I know for us, we use a couple of different ones. There's an app on iPhone and it's called, where are you, app? It's called Moon. It's actually Moon app. It's just Moon for iPhone, right? And the computer software we use is something called Quick Phase Pro. Now, Quick Phase Pro is what you saw in my PowerPoint. It is very, very accurate to the second. It's very, what is it called, meticulous in pointing out the nuances as it pertains to the actual phases, right? So, actually, I do want to go back because I'm a little upset that I counted that wrong. So take me back to the PowerPoint so I can show people Pentecost. It just clicked in my brain. So, from here, where's Passover? Here we go. So this is the first Sabbath, right? First Sabbath. So from here to here is 1 week. This is the second or the next Sabbath, right? So boom, boom. This is 7 days. Excuse me. Let me be technical. From here to here will be 7 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Now that was 1 whole week. That was 1 whole Sabbath that went by. Then we start again. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Remember, it's 49 days. This is when the Sabbath begins, Friday sundown. And then it said plus 1 day, which would be the end of, or excuse me, Saturday at evening, which will be the exact 50 days that is needed. Now, I want to go to Leviticus because that's how I got my brain all jumbled up. Let's go to Leviticus 23 and deal with it. Where are we? Okay, verse 15. 23 and 15.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath.
So, the day after the Sabbath is when you start your count. Read.
From the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
So, after the Passover, we brought what was called the sheaf offering on that very next weekly Sabbath. Now, we would start our counts the day after that Sabbath, and like we just counted, from Saturday night or that particular night, it would be 7 Sabbaths would have been complete, which actually, yes, that would make sense. That's why I counted it wrong. So here we see here. So this is the Sabbath that comes in, right? Now it says the morrow after the Sabbath is when you would end up, end up counting. So this would have started down here, which would be week 1, 2, and so on and so forth. Whoops. And so on and so forth. And we would have counted 7 Sabbaths, 49 days, plus 1 day, which would be 50 days. So we just walked you through how to create a calendar. So, bring it back to us. Escape out of that. Bring it back to us, sir. Now, so we've seen what is... Here it is. So, what is the significance of the feast days? Why would it matter whether or not we created the calendar for our feast days? We understand that. Exodus 31, if you didn't get it, Exodus 31 and 13, it is a sign between us and the Most High that he has separated and sanctified us. In addition to the fact that he gave it to us as laws that we must do in Leviticus 24. How are the feasts determined? The sun, the moon, and the stars, the instruments of heaven that the Lord ordained to do such things. We just figured out how many days are in a month, approximately 30 days. We showed you that the full moon is not the new moon. And we also used that scripture to show you that the lunation cycle is 30 days as well. What else? We showed you the difference between the dark moon and the crescent moon and showed you which one was actually the new moon. And I want to make sure that I hit it all. Oh, and we showed that Christ kept the crescent moon as the new moon, which also determines that the new moon is a crescent moon. And then we showed you how to calculate your feast days. All praise to the Most High. I'm sorry, I missed one. And we showed you when a year begins. We showed you that the new year is in Abib. Abib is in the spring. Abib falls around the time of the vernal equinox, which is the first point of Aries, which is the constellation of Aries, which usually brings in the springtime, which is when the Hebrew New Year is. So, Most High willing, there was some edification here. Most High willing, you guys go back. If you don't believe me, go back and do your own due diligence. Go and do your research, because this is very important. That's why we brought out Acts 5:29. We ought to obey God rather than men. So go back, look at the information yourself, go and do the research so you can make sure to be in alignment with what the Lord wants us to do, what the Lord wants us to keep, that we may be keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments properly, right? So we have reached the end of the class. And like clockwork, DARASH does the same thing at the end of every single class. So, every first Monday, Q&A. You guys make sure that you tune in to Q&A and get all of your questions answered. For all of you Christians that have pastors that don't want to answer these questions, feel free to pull up. For all of you Israelites that don't have anyone to go to, we are open to whoever wants to ask their questions, and we will answer it to the best of our abilities. We do not, I repeat, we do not confess to know every single thing, but everything that we do know, we will teach it to you, and we will give you our understanding. If we don't know, we will tell you we don't know, and we will get back to you. So Q&A every first Monday of the month, of the Gregorian calendar month, of course. So at the beginning of March, the first Monday of April, so on and so forth. Tuesdays, Bible Basics, like we always do. Now, this was a little more complex, but it's still pretty basic because all of the people need to learn this. How to create a calendar, because if you can't create a calendar, you can't keep the feast days. If you can't keep the feast days, then you aren't going to be serving the Lord properly. So, Bible Basics, tap in every week, get the milk, because it's your foundation. It's to strengthen your foundation. Make sure that you are tuning in to that. Wednesday, World History According to the Bible. Again, some more foundational things, because some people say, well, you guys can't find any of your information, your archaeology, so on and so forth. You guys are BS. It's not real. Your Bible's fake. Your God's fake. So we teach you all of these things in addition to sometimes we just teach you history in the Bible, because some people don't know the history in the Bible, right? So they'll be like, oh, so what happened with King David? Okay, we got a lesson on that. Oh, what happened with how did they become separate? We got a lesson on that. All biblical history and even external sources to prove the validity of the Bible, to strengthen your foundation and your understanding. Every second and fourth Thursday, stick to the script. Second Thursday is in the classroom or Chopper City. In the classroom, regular lesson, probably something special that we decided to cook up. Chopper City, also something special, busting up false doctrines or chopping up false doctrines, right? Fourth Thursdays, current events. Every fourth Thursday, we do current events. That was Thursdays. Fridays, room 144, led by either Bishop Izar or Bishop Yatab. Usually more of the meats. Maybe give you some milk. Not sure. But just know, you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be something good. Saturdays, Bishop Tzayawan, who everyone will attest that his classes are always classic. His classes are always fire. You can always get you some spiritual food from Bishop Tzayawan to get your soul fed, and it is always a pleasure and very entertaining to watch Bishop Tzayawan. So y'all need to make sure that y'all tune in. So make sure that you guys tune into these classes. We've established these platforms to ensure that we can get the message out to our people. We're trying to feed the sheep. We're trying to get this information out to you guys so we can gather the lost sheep, that we can bring them all to repentance, that we can gather that number that the Lord wants us to gather, that we can get the hell up out of here. So with that, y'all tune in, y'all tap in. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications. Make sure you are following True Nation's Instagram, True Nation Israelite Congregation. Like our page on Facebook, same thing, True Nation Israelite Congregation. This has been another episode of Bible Basics, calculating the feast days, understanding the Hebrew calendars. Brother DARASH and your Quatzazar, we signing out. Shalom.